because they offered them pennies on the dollar to buy out their practice. I think that's after they offered them $10 for lunch or something like that. The average medical practice doesn't have 2 weeks of payroll. I don't think it's any surprise that, medicine's getting squeezed, but the insurance companies keep getting richer. There's more abuse and fraud. No matter what your political affiliation is, I don't think it really matters, but government's bloated, medicine's bloated, the insurance system's broken, and there's just a big mess on our hands. And what we're here to do tonight is to talk about how do you get out from under that? Every doctor has a medical license and the right to practice medicine. Not every doctor anymore, and in fact, less than most doctors own their own business. And even less are entrepreneurs or won't even want to deal with the true business and economics of the business, let alone the practice. So I think those are some things we want to dig into, and I think everyone that knows, what does it mean to succeed in biologics, peptides, and wherever you want to apply this to. And I think some of the things Dr. Martin's going to go to is going to be applicable in your business. There is no strings attached to this. This meeting is brought to you by the Institute of Regenerative Education. You can look that up. We'll send out an email. You can join that on Facebook. There's no cost. There's no strings attached. You can join that and begin having conversations about biologics in your practice. We've officially launched the IORE.com, where Dr. Martin has been gracious enough to share other clinical notes, and other people like My Injection University, who does training, have donated their time, effort, and even their collateral, consent form, medical note dictation, protocol list. Well, there's over 100 hours of training. There's much, much more. And really, what we're doing is people have liked what we do on here and asked us for a better way to capture it. And Dr. Martin has officially got an approval on the largest IRB in the nation for biologics. I'll let him go into more details on that. But that's another thing we'll be following up. So it's just not, it's kind of surprise, right? No, it's there. So with that, I'll get out of the way. Thank you everyone for your time on a Monday night at 7. We appreciate it very, very much, and we hope you enjoy the information.
Thank you, Bevan. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you to the entire team at Platinum Biologics, the entire research team at the Institute of Regenerative Education. I'm Dr. Scott Martin. For all of you that don't know, I'm the head of the Outside Medical Advisory Board for Platinum Biologics. I'm kind of the de facto head of the education arm for the Institute of Regenerative Education. I do peer-to-peer, one-on-one consultation, in-person training. I also am responsible for the research and the publication arm of the Institute of Regenerative Education. By training, I've been in practice for 25 years. And we're talking today about falling in love with your cash practice. Now, everything that I do is on a whiteboard, so all of you that were expecting maybe, slides that you could fall asleep through, this is not going to be that. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about falling in love. And for all of you that don't know, I'm married. I have been for about 25 years. I've known my wife for 27. And I did my formal training, at least my third year of medical school, in London, which is where I met my wife. And I remember the very first time I saw her. I mean, I was knocked completely out of, out of this universe. I was knocked. And we went on one date. And I remember touching her hand for the first time when we were at Wimbledon. We actually skipped class. Well, I talked her into skipping class and going to Wimbledon. We have been through quite a lot in 25 years. We have 2 wonderful children. My wife is exceedingly brilliant. She's an endocrinologist. Her name is Marianne Martin, aka Dr. Hormone Hacker. But a marriage takes work. And whether you've been married for 3 years or 25 years, you have to work at rediscovering those things that you love about your spouse. Now, most of you haven't been in medical practice for 25 years like I have. I've been in medical practice for 25 years. I've been married for 25 years. I got married the day I completed medical school. most of you, if you're kind of, you're in your car and you're kind of driving to work and you're just going to the same old office, right? And going to the same old office is kind of like coming home to the same old spouse. You might think that it gets a little stale after a period of time. And so, you're driving in your car and, if you're a guy, maybe you see a nicer car than you and you're like, ooh, boy, that's nice. But if your practice has gotten stale, maybe you see a billboard for a brand new med spa and you think, oh man, I would love a medical spa. I just hate the four walls in my office. I'm just tired of the furniture, tired of the paint color, and tired of the cabinets. Maybe I'll just start a brand new practice. What I am here to tell you is number one, the grass is not greener on the other side in relationships and in your relationship with your office. And so what we're going to talk through is in your own four walls, in your existing medical practice, how to walk through the doors of your practice and look at your practice like you should look at your spouse when you walk through the door and you come home, right? How do we do that if we're not satisfied with the status quo? Well, first, let's understand what the status quo is. For the past 5 years, Medicare, which is the best payer in medicine, right, on the insurance side, has cut reimbursements by 2.5 to 3% every year for 5 years. Now, most of you, your best payer is Medicare if you take insurance. Now, if you think that because Medicare cut rates for the past 2.5 to 3 years, I'm sorry, for the past 5 years, they've cut 2.5 to 3%. Next year, they're just not going to cut again. You would be sorely mistaken. Because we as providers, unfortunately, are not dentists and we are not attorneys. We see this bag of cash, right? These Medicare dollars, right? And over here, right, are all the providers. And they see that bag of dollars. And because that bag of dollars gets smaller and smaller every year, as opposed to working together, what do? Well, we don't work together, right? We take out Cupid's arrow and then we attack every one of our fellow providers, right? This doctor is terrible. You should sue this doctor. I'm going to file an anonymous complaint to the medical board about that doctor, right? Maybe I should spend more on advertising so the patients don't see that doctor. Now, even worse, right? Sitting way down here is the insurance company, right? And the insurance company is kind of like the devil. They literally have their little devil horns, right? And they're like, oh, you want all those Medicare dollars, right? So us, devil, right, with our big fangs, right? We're going to give you less than 72% of Medicare rates in return for what? Volume. We're going to guarantee you, patients, all you have to do is sign your soul away on this insurance contract through our HMO or EPO or Medicare Advantage plan for 68 to 72% of a Medicare fee schedule that is going to continue to decline in perpetuity by 2.5 to 3% every year. So while we're stabbing each other in the private sector and assailing each other in the private sector, the insurance sector is forcing us to compete as well and compete for scraps, right? And if you think volume replaces revenue, I am sorry, but you are wrong. And so let's just illustrate this. Now, let's assume that this bag of cash was an ortho bag of cash, right? Because I'm talking to orthopedic surgeons all the time now. Well, a total hip replacement 5 years ago reimbursed what? Oh, it reimbursed a little over $1,600 on the professional side. What does it reimburse this year? Just over $1,000. Now, you may not think that a $600 reduction in fee schedule is a lot over 5 years, but you're not an orthopedic surgeon. You don't have to take care of that patient for 90 days. And they're not getting $1,000 because 20% is co-insurance. And we're in what? We're in February. That means almost no patient who has insurance has met their deductible. So for the first 3 months, you're going to get paid nothing. And even if you do collect on that Medicare patient, you're only going to get 20% of that, which is $800. Now you divide that $800 by 3 months, right? What are we looking at, right? 6, 20. We're looking at just about 60, well, 600, I'm sorry, not that much. A little over $250 a month, right? So for $250 a month, I get to take care of a patient that I just operated. For $250 a month, I get to, unfortunately, decide whether I want that patient to sue me. Because it isn't about the outcome for this $250 a month. It's not about the outcome at all. Because now you don't have to have a bad outcome. All you have to do is not meet the patient's expectation. Let's get a little more granular, all right? This is orthopedic surgeons, but this isn't everybody, right? Let's make it a little more prescient for everybody. So we're going to eliminate the orthos, right? And now we're going to talk about something near and dear to just about a lot of hearts, right? The good old 20610 or 11. This is a large joint injection. Integrated chiros, pain doctors, naturopaths, orthopedic surgeons, physiatrists, podiatrists at times, sports medicine doctors, rheumatologists, every now and then dermatologists, neurologists, all of them, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, right? All of those groups are billing this code. What does this code reimburse? $59.95. It's now less than this, by the way. It used to be this, it's now less. Okay, so on $60, we're just going to take 20% off the top. So we take 12 off the top. So now we're at $48 on that $60 procedure. Well, what's standard overhead in your office? Standard overhead in your office is 65%. So even if we took half of this, we're looking at 24. So the real metric is about $15. Does that $15 include the cost of the Depo-Medrol? No, it doesn't. How much is Depo-Medrol? Oh, it can be $7 to $10. So you may, for this 20610, depending on how efficient your office is and how high a volume you buy Depo-Medrol, your net reimbursement on this code is between $5 and $10. $5 and $10, right? I mean, you can't buy a biggie bag at Wendy's unless it's on sale for that much. This is terrible. Terrible reimbursement. So if this is what we're looking at right now, let's look at the other realities. We're going to erase all this. How many of you have office staff? Oh, everybody. What do you have to do now for office staff? Every single one of them. Oh, you have to give them a salary, and you have to give them work comp, and you have to give them health insurance. And many, if they're really, really good, you're going to have to give them dental, or you're going to have to give them vision. And even after you do all of this, for your most reliable, closest, best MA, nurse practitioner, office manager, all of you on this call know that they will leave you with much less than 2 weeks notice for $1 an hour more somewhere else. And if you don't think I'm serious, you just haven't lost your best employee yet to somebody else down the street who you likely refer patients to. And they're going to pay $1 or $2 or more an hour. Or they're going to offer dental and vision. Or they're going to offer more flexible vacation time or paid time off. But just like that, you can lose your single best provider. So this is the reality. The reality is the Medicare dollars are shrinking. The insurance dollars are shrinking. The pressure to be a provider is growing. The amount of paperwork you have to complete just to get paid is multiplying. And so what is the option? And you're looking at this wonderful practice that you may have spent years putting together, and your first thought is what? I can tell you what your first thought is because it's the first thing I thought. Your first thought, come in on a Thursday, your first 2 patients cancel, they were your only good paying Medicare consults for the day. Everything else you're going to see is a follow-up. You're not going to make any money. You really wanted to take your wife out for Valentine's Day. You wanted to take her to that great restaurant that she's heard of, but it's going to be $250. And your 2 consults canceled for the day. So all it is 40 follow-ups for the day. And you're barely going to break even that day. And your thought is what? Burn the ships. That's it. Burn the ships. I'm done. Scrap it. I'm going to open whatever, a med spa. I'm going to do aesthetics. Yes, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not going to operate anymore. I'm going to go open a med spa. Yes, I'm a podiatric surgeon. Look, I'm a needle jockey. I'm a pain doctor. That's all I am. I'm a needle jockey at best. I am not a surgeon. I don't have the sales proficiency of an integrated chiro. I don't have the exam and the dogged, aggressive approach to chronic disease that an integrated provider has or a naturopathic provider, right? I probably don't have the endurance that the average nurse practitioner does because they had to go through 4 years of nursing before they even became a nurse practitioner. Most of you have sacrificed your lives for your practice. And in the 4 walls that you're sitting in, simply because you have fallen out of love with your practice, your first thought is burn the ships, burn the whole damn thing down. I'm done with it. What I am here to tell you is to just stop from sparking that match. And I'm going to show you why. Within your medical practice that you've built, if you've been in practice for any longer than 5 years and you've taken insurance and you're busy, How did you get busy? Well, you got busy because you were competent. You got busy because you have a good name in the community. You got busy because you got great outcomes. You got busy because patients liked you. You got busy because your staff liked you. Because you cannot build a successful practice without a reliable staff. Now, in your existing practice, in the four walls of your office, where you want to do nothing more than burn the ship, right? But in those four walls of your practice, you've established market competence, name recognition, proven outcomes, meaning you can take care of patients and they get better. Patients like you, whether you have an awful bedside manner or a great one. Patients like, worst bedside manner ever, but I hardly ever have to see him because anytime I go to him, he knows exactly what I have. He prescribes the right thing and I'm better. So, you know what? I don't care about his ugly ties. I don't care about the fact that, he snorts when I say something weird, right? Whatever. And the staff likes it. If you are chronically late, like I am, and your staff covers for you every single time, if you walk into your office and you've seen a run of patients and you have a break and you're trying to figure out why there's a break in the schedule, and your office manager walks up to you with a cup of coffee and a biscuit like they did for me at 2:30 when I was in England, and she says, I know you've been running back to back and burning the candle at both ends. I'm sorry, but I blocked your 2:30 just to give you a break to catch up because I know you have a couple long cases this evening, and I just wanted you to have a little respite before you go into surgery at 5 o'clock. You have a damn good office. This you cannot buy. You can't buy this. You can't market your way to this. You can't hire a marketing company to build this because all of this reflects you as a provider. And what all of this means, if you decide to burn this down, is that you burnt the single best generator for patients in the medical marketplace. You burnt a funnel. Anytime you get on a marketing call, anytime you talk to marketers, anytime you talk to people that deal in lead generation, what do? Qualify, quantify, specify. What do you think you've done for 5 or 25 years in your practice? Qualified patients, quantified outcomes, specified that you're the person that can deliver on that. You want to burn the ships? You're burning something you can't build again. So let's look at this a different way. I'm going to propose something a little different. Since you have the receipts, since you are the guy or the girl or the person, since you are the stuff, you are the magic, right? What you really need is to fall back in love with the funnel that you built. And with the funnel that you have built, you need to give yourself a little grace. Now, the way you give yourself grace is you give yourself time. If I have an insurance-based practice and I want to build a cash-based business, it's not going to happen overnight. And if you are to turn it over overnight, what happens? You lose the faith, trust, and confidence of the very funnel you spent 5 to 25 years to build. If you do it slowly, judiciously, competently, now you engender faith and trust in your client base. Now your funnel that is seeing you for insurance will see you for cash. Critical to this. Number one, take the time. Number two, I want to build a cash business. Do you know what's more important than giving yourself grace? If you're going to build a cash business, deciding what you're worth. And I can't determine that for you. Let me give you an example. I'm going to do this in red so it piques your interest. Platinum is a company, has a product called Nano Jelly. That product is a turnkey Wharton's jelly. We'll get into that in just a second. And that product has a retail cost of $150. I have integrated chiros, and I'm not going to name names, that are doing a 20610/11, because we know now it's a bundled code in most of the country. And per injection on a product that's $150, they charge a patient $7,500 cash using a $150 product. In the same day, I'll talk to an orthopedic surgeon. Tippy top of the class. I mean, look, I was physical medicine and rehab, right? Physical medicine and rehab was kind of what you did. If you really didn't know what you wanted to do, you weren't smart enough to be an orthopedic surgeon. You didn't study hard enough to be an orthopedic surgeon. Just weren't competent enough to be a surgeon. And you definitely weren't smart enough to go in internal medicine. I told a dermatologist this not 30 minutes before this call. My aunt, Dr. Ann Martin, is singularly brilliant, and she was the chair of the Department of Dermatology at Washington University School of Medicine for the last 20, 25 years. And I had the great honor of rotating through the Department of Dermatology at WashU for 3 rotations, my 4th year of medical school. And man, I was like, my aunt's chair, my dad's a doctor in the community, my dad's associate professor of ENT. I am in, man. Yeah, I wasn't so in. I sat down in front of the chair of the department and he looked me dead in the eyes. And he said, Dr. Martin, Washington University School of Medicine is the number 2 medical school in the country. In the next few years, we'll be the number 1 medical school in the country. We are the number 1 dermatology program in the country. And plainly spoken, Dr. Martin, you are simply not bright enough to be part of our program. And I refuse to bring my program down to the level of your intellect. I was like, damn. I mean, it was a wonderful dose of, humble pie. And, I didn't get to eat it. I kind of got smacked in the face with it. And it was like repeated pies over and over. Because then he continued to elaborate on how I wasn't smart enough for another 15 minutes. But it helped me understand a number of things, not the least of which is that I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room, ever. Orthopedic surgeons are dramatically smarter than I am, and integrated chiros are singularly brilliant at marketing, but they're not going to go replace a hip. They're not going to go in and figure out how to take care of somebody with avascular necrosis of the femoral head who's got diabetes, congestive heart failure, renal failure on dialysis, and figure out how to get that patient into surgery, through surgery, out of surgery, and then take care of them afterwards. But all day long, I will talk to an orthopedic surgeon who will want to use this product cash, and they are concerned charging $300 for the same product. Now, what's the difference between the integrated chiro and the ortho? I mean, there's a fair amount of difference here with regard to education, training, background, right? Integrated chiro can't even drive the needle, right? He's working with MD oversight and he has a nurse practitioner that's actually doing the procedure, right? Orthopedic surgeon's probably done 40,000 knee injections. You blindfold him, throw darts into knees from across the room and perfect every time. The difference is worth. And you may think that's insane. Why would an orthopedic surgeon not feel like they can charge more than $300? And I'm going to tell you, it's because for 5 years, orthopedic surgeons have been beat down by insurance companies on what they get paid for the biggest surgeries they do, hips, shoulders, knees. Reimbursement has cascaded into the toilet for the past 5 years. And every year they work harder to get paid less. I'm a pain doctor. We were the first to really get railroaded. Our codes plummeted. So number one, give yourself some time. Number two, decide that you are worth not having to retire early because you can't afford to keep your practice open. Decide that you're worth not taking a second mortgage on your house, not taking a loan from the bank at some predatory interest rate, not taking all the money you have in your savings and opening a med spa, and burning the ships of the best funnel you're ever going to have. The difference between this and this isn't confidence. It's not. It's this. Not a single integrated chiro I have ever talked to thinks to themselves, after my 4 years at chiropractic school and after building this massive chiro clinic and after learning the ins and outs of insurance or personal injury or whatever else, do they think, I'm charging too much? None of them think that. They all, when I talk to them, ask me if they're charging enough. Every single one. Orthopedic surgeons, 99% of the time, what do they ask me? Am I charging too much? I cannot help you determine worth. What I can say is that if you're going to build a cash-based practice, build it to be a legacy to everything that you've done in medicine. Not everything that you've done through insurance, everything that you have done in medicine in general. What have you done in medicine for your community? What have you sacrificed? How many patients have you treated for free? How many times did you take a patient that was straight Medicaid when you don't take Medicaid and you did surgery or procedures or consults or favors? And it was a nightmare, train wreck patient. And they got your cell phone and they called you morning, noon, and night. And maybe they filed complaints. Maybe they wanted to sue you. And you never got paid a dime for any of that. I still have checks for procedures that I did, and I billed $7,500, $7,900, and insurance companies paid me 1 penny. A penny. I still have the checks. You, if you have an established practice, believe it or not, are a staple of your community. And you are holding the line between health and disease. And if you don't think that everything that you have sacrificed to hold that line between health and disease is worth getting paid, I would suggest that you're wrong. And if you want to jump on a call with me personally and just simply talk it through, I am happy to be the shoulders that you stand on so you feel taller and you can command more than a couple $100 for an outcome that you're going to give a patient that's going to supersede anything in the medical marketplace. Now, I'm going to say that again for all those people that weren't listening. When you're charging this or charging this, how and why should you feel confident that you can do that? Because you're going to do something that supersedes everything we know in the regenerative medical marketplace. And right now, I'm going to prove it. So grab a glass of wine, grab a cup of coffee, get a second plate of lasagna, go for dessert. Don't care what it is. Buckle up because we're about to get into it. What we are talking about in the field of biologics are human cell and tissue products, right? Human cell and tissue products live in Section 361, the Federal Regulatory Statute 361, different from drugs. Drugs are Section 351. These have a specific indication to treat. Everything that we are talking about cannot be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. They are an allograft. Section 361 subserves PRP, PRF, PRFM, A2M, right? Platelet-derived growth factor, bone marrow aspirate concentrate, stromovascular fraction, and umbilical cord tissue. We are going to talk primarily about this and then show you how and why it is dramatically better than all this. Let's get into it. The majority of you have seen patients with osteoarthritis of the knee. Osteoarthritis of the knee is a disease. There isn't a single person alive that only has osteoarthritis in the lumbar facet complex at L4 or 5 on the right and nowhere else. Osteoarthritis is a systemic disease. When we talk about osteoarthritis, it is a grading scale, and that grading scale is predicated on the Kellgren-Lawrence scale. If I say somebody has OA, grade 3, 4, what does that mean? Well, it means that they have degeneration of the joint. What specifically does it mean? The Kellgren-Lawrence scale is predicated specifically on degeneration of articular cartilage. This is critically important. Articular cartilage is type 2 collagen. Every single joint in the human body that is a synovial joint has articular cartilage covering the articular surface. In the knee joint, we have articular cartilage that covers the articular surface of the femur, femoral condyle, and the tibial plateau, also the head of the fibula. Now, do we have any other types of cartilage in the knee? Well, as a matter of fact, we do. The synovium of the knee joint is type 1 collagen and type 3 collagen. The ACL, the PCL, the medial meniscus, the lateral meniscus, the lateral collateral ligament, the medial collateral ligament attached to the medial meniscus are all type 1 and type 3 collagen. When we get to grade 3, grade 4 OA, that does not happen in isolation. There is a natural history of cartilage-based degeneration. Initially, we have fibrillation of articular cartilage, meaning that by way of stress, trauma, time spent on the planet Earth, because we have gravity sticking us to the ground. I'm not like floating around giving the lecture, right? We get breakdown of the crosslinks in the articular cartilage, in swelling of water that causes a chondrocyte to do what? Become anabolic. The chondrocyte will then stimulate proteins that create collagen. Those proteins are SOX9A, Col2A1, and aggrecan. That paradigm where you have an anabolic phase of the chondrocyte is short-lived. With continued stress, the chondrocyte goes through a phenotypic change, and the chondrocyte does the switcheroo, and it becomes catabolic. Inside the knee joint itself, we have elevations of inflammatory mediators. Those inflammatory mediators are an elevation in IL-1 beta, an elevation in IL-6, and an elevation in TNF alpha. What do these inflammatory mediators do? They down-regulate the production of SOX9A, Col2A1, and aggrecan. They break down collagen, and in particular, type 2 collagen. Eventually, with stress, wear and tear, degeneration, the chondrocyte itself becomes senescent. And when the chondrocyte itself becomes senescent, the chondrocyte itself stimulates inflammatory mediators. It itself elevates IL-1 beta, TNF alpha, and IL-6. That's when we get to about grade 4 OA. Now here's where things get interesting. I'm looking at this joint and I decide for myself, you know what? I need to do something about that joint, right? So I'm going to give, well, let's call it cortisone, right? Is cortisone anabolic or catabolic? Oh, unfortunately, it's catabolic. We've known since Journal of Bone and Joint 2016, serial application of cortisone more than quarterly for over a year predictably leads to joint replacement. Right? Then radiology 2020, right? Another very large, very esteemed journal article published that serial application of cortisone actually accelerates degeneration in joints. It doesn't help. Man. So that $5 to $10 that I'm getting for that cortisone shot, I'm actually making the joint worse, right? Now, has any doctor been sued for putting cortisone in a joint that led to joint replacement? That I'm aware of, it has not happened yet. If and when it does, and by and large it probably will, right, that will eliminate cortisone as a viable option for joint degeneration. It should be eliminated anyway, right? But what is our reasonable alternative? Well, if cortisone's not awesome for the knee, what else do we have? Well, okay, let's do PRP, right? PRP is going to definitely be awesome for the knee joint, right? Now, a lot of people use PRP. PRP is regenerative, right? It's got stem cells. It's definitely awesome for the knee. What if it wasn't? Turns out it isn't. PRP works by way of something called a pro-inflammatory response, meaning that PRP, as the red blood cells in PRP die, which they do in 3 to 5 days, right? They release heme and they release iron, which ends up causing release of excitatory amino acids, glutamate, aspartate, calcitonin, and G-related peptide, which then does what? Oh, it just elevates IL-1 beta. It elevates IL-6. Oh, and it also elevates TNF alpha. Now, all of you that had your coffee as opposed to a glass of wine, does that sound familiar? It should, because that's what's happening with our chondrocyte whenever we have greater than, say, grade 2, grade 3 OA. We have an inflammatory paradigm inside the joint already. Our chondrocyte is catabolic. The inflammation inside the joint's already down regulating the proteins that would otherwise create collagen. And we're going to go in and we're going to give a product that's going to increase the inflammation. Good idea or bad idea? Well, I guess it depends. Many will argue that there's literature that, you know what, PRP is just fine. And I would argue you're probably correct if your patient's 25 years old, young, and healthy. And they have an intact humoral response. Because if you're going to cause inflammation, you require the ability to do what? You require the ability to downregulate inflammation as well. Well, if you're young and healthy and have no medical problems, you can probably do that. What if you have lupus? What if you have rheumatoid arthritis? What if you've had 2 COVID vaccines and 7 boosters? What if you have chronic Lyme or chronic Epstein-Barr? What if you have POTS syndrome? Can you down-regulate inflammation when the negative feedback loop that modulates inflammation in your body is broken? No, you cannot. So what are we doing when we cause more inflammation for a patient that can't modulate inflammation because of their inherent disease processes? We make them worse. Okay, well, surely something like bone marrow's got to be better, right? I mean, the literature on BMAC is awesome, right? You've all seen the little Instagram thing, same, but different. Same as PRP, just different. Bone marrow aspirate concentrate is pro-inflammatory. Can you wash all the red blood cells out of BMAC? You cannot. PRP has exactly 0 differentiated mesenchymal stem cells. Bone marrow, differentiated mesenchymal stem cells are 0.001% of a single yield. This is why you need multiple yields and to concentrate BMAC just to get any differentiated mesenchymal stem cells. And here comes the big problem. What's the growth factor complex in PRP? The growth factor complex in PRP is type 1 collagen. What's the growth factor complex in BMAC? It is also type 1 collagen. What about stromovascular fraction? Oh, it's type 1 collagen as well. So even if we took fat and we put it in the knee and we used stromovascular fraction, it's also only type 1 collagen. But this is going to help, right? We didn't make the Kellgren-Lawrence scale predicated on type 1 collagen, predicated on type 2 collagen. So how much are we really helping if we're causing more inflammation in a joint that already has inflammation and there are no collagen-based precursors in any of these products that are actually going to create the collagen-based building block the body needs to generate collagen? What's the alternative? Well, we're going to leave all that there. And since everyone memorized this, if I take mom, she has a little baby inside her, cute baby, right? And she's got an umbilical cord, right? The umbilical cord itself, right, is on average 28 centimeters long. That umbilical cord that's 28 centimeters long, if you open the epithelial layer, and you strip out the 3 blood vessels inside, there is a primordial tissue inside the umbilical cord. That primordial tissue inside the umbilical cord is called Wharton's jelly. Wharton's jelly was identified by Dr. Wharton in 1950. Histologically, Wharton's jelly is type 1 collagen, type 3 collagen, hyaluronic acid, extracellular matrix, and a little bit of, well, actually a lot of it of mesenchymal stem cells, and a little bit of type 2 collagen. Now, if I'm looking at something that's pro-inflammatory, only has type 1 collagen, and just from this, I have to compare this to this, this is a pretty easy choice. It also happens to downregulate inflammation, meaning that it downregulates IL-1 beta, it upregulates IL-10, and it upregulates ARG1. There's also some evidence that it upregulates TKNF beta. Potent downregulatory response on inflammation. Essentially what it does is it moves an M1 macrophage paradigm to an M2 macrophage paradigm. This works by way of M2 macrophage activity. All of these work by way of M1. Down-regulate inflammation, up-regulate inflammation. So now I've proven how and why something like umbilical cord tissue-derived Wharton's jelly is going to be more potent. How does that play out practically in my practice? Dr. Martin, this is all lovely. I appreciate the whole, science lesson, but, I didn't want to watch Bill Nye the Science Guy tonight. I wanted to learn how to build a cash-based biologics practice. Okay, let's do that. The reason I show you all of this is to give you a fundamental understanding for how and why we use biologics. Because at the end of the day, whether you all believe it or not, you are in a sinking ship. I know you don't think you are, but you are. You're in a sinking ship. The reason you're in a sinking ship, here's your ship, right? Here's your sail. It's a little teeny tiny sail, right? Here's the water line, right here. Medicare reimbursement is going down, right? Cost of doing business is going up. Competition going up. How do you keep the boat afloat? There's only one way to keep the boat afloat. That's cash. And that's cash-based biologics. Well, Dr. Martin, you just said I'm drowning. I mean, we know all this. I've known this for 15 years. Oh, yeah, I know. I know you know. But what you don't know is what's coming. Right now, there are stem cell bills where California has right to try since 2017. Nevada has right to try since 2016. Both of these are going to be updated soon. Florida has one of the largest stem cell bills. It was passed in June or July of 2025. Utah passed a huge stem cell bill, and that was passed in like 2024. Who's on deck? Oh, Alabama. Now, not all of you may be football fans, but I am here to tell you, if Alabama gets a stem cell bill passed this year, you think Georgia Bulldogs are going to be just like totally fine with never winning a national championship again? Because every Alabama player gets to roll tide in as much biologic as they want to recover as fast as they possibly can? You think Ohio State is going to be fine with that? You think USC or UCLA is going to be fine with that? Right? Now we're just talking about football here, right? What about professional football? What about basketball, right? What about any collegiate or professional sport where teams get paid tons of money to win these championships, right? And states have people literally move to them predicated on how a team's doing. I mean, I'm in Nevada. We had tons of people move here when the Raiders moved here. And the Raiders aren't that good, but their fans are loyal. And when the Raiders moved to Vegas, all their fans came with them. When we got hockey, the Golden Knights, they've been excellent. They've been so-so, right? But tons of fans love the Golden Knights. I can tell you what, if Nevada updates their stem cell bill, right? And the Golden Knights and the Raiders get access to biologics, will it affect play? Very likely, because it will absolutely affect recovery. Most people don't know this, but Florida passed their stem cell bill last year in June or July 2025, and not weeks prior, University of Florida won, the championship for college basketball. All over subreddit, there were complaints that University of Florida had access to stem cell. And because they had access to stem cell, that's how and why they won. Now, they're playing very well this year also, right? But then again, big stem cell bill there. It's completely okay in Florida. I had a conversation with a dermatologist, brilliant guy. He's in Mississippi. And he said, look, this doesn't really affect me. And I said, oh, mon frère, sure it does. Sure it does. Do you have a marijuana law that's been passed in your state? Sure enough, they do, right? Now, they weren't the first to get a marijuana law, but eventually all states will have marijuana laws on their books. Just because you're not practicing in Florida or Utah doesn't mean that eventually there won't be a stem cell bill passed in your state. And it's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. When those laws get passed, if all of this that I've been walking you through with regard to biologics isn't something that you're up to speed on, your competition doesn't go up a little bit, your competition goes up dramatically. If your competition's all using biologics and you've never heard of it, and your patients say, well, we have a stem cell bill, I'd like exosomes, and you have no idea what that term means, it's unlikely that patient's going to come back to you. They're going to go see somebody else. This is already happening. I've talked to 5,000 providers over the past 5 years about how to use biologics. I can't say that I have my finger on the pulse of the biologics community, but it's pretty close because I'm talking to doctors every day. In a given week, I'll talk to 100 brand new providers who are brand new to the field of biologics. And they're all looking at this because they've all drowned from this. And they're like, I'm just not doing this again. I can't continue to suffer like this. You know what I really want? I want to not worry about drowning. And what I really want is some quality of life. I'm going to tell you a little story. So a nurse practitioner, very sweet lady, gave me a call. And she said, Dr. Martin, I've worked in the ER now for 10 years. On slow shifts, I see 70 patients. On busy shifts, I can see up to 200 patients. I'm tired of it. I just, I never see my family. I'm exhausted all the time. I feel just terrible. I'm done with it. She didn't have her own practice. She was working in, the ER. She was salaried. She's like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to go to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I want to set up my own wellness practice. I said, that's hot. I love it. Let's do it. You figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, right? And I'll help you build the practice. And she says, Dr. Martin, I want to start with something simple. I want to start with something, elegant. I want to make a difference in people's lives, but I want quality of life. So what we built for her was the Coeur d'Alene protocol. Now, some of you go run out and try to find this person. I'm not going to tell you who it is. She started with simple IV therapy. Her IV therapy we built like a very simple sushi menu. Literally. Split a page in two. She has little clipboards, little clip thing here, little pencil here, right? She said, how do I effectively modulate disease in a way that will be healthy, that will be clean, and will be effective? And I said, the single best thing that you could possibly do is to use an umbilical cord derived exosome product. Something that will be a messenger or a carrier, will down-regulate inflammation, will cross the blood-brain barrier, centrally and peripherally, and will also be anabolic. Something completely different than NSAIDs, DMARDs, cortisone. She's like, that's hot. I love it. Let's do it. But she's like, I want to provide value. I want to deliver value. I said, okay, let's deliver value. Platinum has a top shelf cryopreserved exosome. It's 180 billion exosomes in a 1 cc vial. That product was created by Dr. Ashim Gupta, one of the foremost experts in regenerative medicine in the world. Dr. Gupta is a colleague. Dr. Gupta has been published 2,500 times. He's been cited in peer-reviewed articles and referenced over 40,000 times. He and I published an article on adhesive capsulitis 2023. Platinum has exclusive license for sale and distribution of that product in the US. It's a fabulous umbilical cord derived plasma exosome. This is something called Nano Air. Nano Air is a product that was developed for my daughter. My daughter was a collegiate athlete. I'm sorry, high school athlete, was fabulous. Her team won state in lacrosse when she was in high school. She went to UNLV in the honors program and studied hospitality, got paid by UNLV to go to their hospitality program. But she also had to enroll in online classes over COVID, and she had to take both COVID vaccines. And as much as I persisted, she was 18 and she knew more than everybody, including me. She's definitely brighter than I am. And she ended up getting long COVID from 2 COVID jabbies. And she developed long COVID hypersomnia. And she's sleeping 18, 19 hours a day. Her immune system was so fragile that if temperatures fluctuated any more than 5 degrees, my daughter would get profoundly sick. Nose would be pouring snot. She'd be coughing up green phlegm. As much as I love my daughter and she loved me, this was a product that we had at Platinum, but I couldn't give my daughter a hug, let alone put an IV in her arm. She just would never have allowed it. And so with Platinum, we developed this, something called Nano Air, a 50 billion lyophilized shelf-stable product that could be given by IV or could be nebulized in a simple handheld nebulizer. And I gave my daughter this product. She was patient zero. She took it once, took it again 2 weeks later, took it again 4 weeks later, and then a fourth time a month after that. And at the 5th month, my daughter went back to the gym for the first time in 2 years. My daughter is now, very proudly, assistant director of food and beverage at the Pelican Hill Resort in Newport Coast, California. She completed college in 3 years with honors, top honors. Can I say that this was the reason that she got through college? Yes, definitively, without question. My daughter still nebulizes about every 8 to 12 weeks. And so I told her this story, and she's like, I definitely want to use that product, but I want to do everything IV. I want all of this to be IV. I said, okay. And she's like, but I want to provide value. I said, got it. Let's do that. I said, now you're familiar with, glutathione and Myers cocktail and NAD and ketamine and, beauty bags with biotin, BEAUTY. You're familiar with, biohacker bags. You're familiar with high-dose beta vitamins and zinc and all these other things. She's like, yeah, I know all that stuff. I said, great. I said, we're going to put together a protocol where if you give 180 billion exosomes, they get to pick free supplements of their choice. And they're going to pay $2,500 for that. And if they use the 50 billion exosomes, they're going to pick one supplement, complimentary, and they're going to pay $1,250. She's like, that's sexy. I like it. She's like, it's not brutally expensive, but it affords value. Now, on the other side of this, cost, because cost is always a factor. She was buying all this in lots of 10. So she was paying, retail for this is $1,250. She was paying $1,000 per dose of nanosomes. Retail on Nano Air is $500. She bought in lots of 10. She's paying $350 in cost. So she net $850 because all of these she made sure she didn't spend any more than $50 on her supplements. She net $850 per Nano Air. She net $1,350 per nanosomes. And we set it up exactly like this for her. And I got a call 6 months later. And she said, Dr. Martin, she's like, I have a problem. I said, really? I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. I said, how can I help? She's like, well, just so you know, she's like, the practice is kind of great. She's like, I'm doing great. I said, really? Tell me. She's like, well, I'm netting around 30K a month. I said, you're netting 30,000 a month? What exactly is it that you have a problem with? And she said, I don't know what to do with all my time. I said, excuse me? She's like, well, I'm only seeing about 2 patients a day. But because on average, I make about $1,000 a patient, and I see between 8 and 14 patients a week, I make about $10,000 a week. But she said, I open at 7 a.m. and I close at 6, and I'm open 5 days a week, but my patients, they really only kind of come in the middle of the day. Well, in her community, most of her patients were soccer moms, and most of them dropped their kids off at school and then would come in around 9:30 or 10 after they went to Starbucks or whatever else, right? And most of them wouldn't show up after 3:30 because they had to pick their kids up and then they had to make dinner or whatever else. So we closed her practice at the beginning and end of the day. And we ended up changing the hours from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and I had her open Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you know what happened to her volume? It went up. Because on Saturday, damn near every Saturday, she'd see 4 or 5 patients. Now, all of this can be done in any medical practice, bar none, in the US. All of this can be done. Most of you, now let's just show you, right? Her startup cost to do this. I'll show you exactly, right? Her startup cost was $10K for the nanosomes. $3,500 for Nano Air. And then she ordered all of her supplements at $50 a piece, and she spent $5,000 for all of her supplements. Add another $5,000 for supplies, IV bags, pole, chair, the whole bit, right? 10, 20, less than $25,000. Name me the marketing company that's going to drive patients to your practice that's worth a damn that's going to charge you less than $25,000. Not a single one. Not a single one. I talked to a doctor who spent $150,000 in marketing last year. $150,000. Nothing to show for it. Nothing. Couldn't show any significant improvement in his bottom line. As a matter of fact, he lost money on top of his $150,000. She invested $25K. And you know what she did to get patients? Oh, she just joined the nicest gym in her neighborhood. She literally looked for the nicest gym. Whatever the admission fee was, she didn't care. But she was going to go to the nicest gym because anyone who was willing to spend $300 a month to go to the gym had the money for this. IV wellness is the single most profitable paradigm in medicine, bar none. Bar none. So you say, well, Dr. Martin, that's great, but I don't want to drop an IV. Okay, it's fine. Can you nebulize? Yeah, you can nebulize. Are there supplements that you can nebulize? Sure there are. Do I have clinics that just do nebulized wellness and only do nebulized therapy? You betcha. And they're crushing it. Now, they're not putting 3, 5 supplements in, right? But there are plenty of beta vitamins and other minerals and other, essential amino acids. There's all sorts of things that you can nebulize. You would be amazed at the number of things you can nebulize. I talked to a practitioner probably 6 months ago. And he said, I don't want to drop an IV. I don't want to hire a nurse. I don't want the liability. But I think this is really hot. And he was an internal medicine guy. And he saw tons of people with chronic disease. And he's like, I'd like to build a menu like this for nebulized. I said, let's do it. So he worked with his local compound pharmacy to find all the stuff he could nebulize. Now his nebulized therapy, he uses 5 cc's of total volume, and each nebulizer takes 30 minutes. He charges $1,000 per nebulized application. And his cost is $350 for Nano Air and $50 for a supplement. And he charges $1,000 for this, and he lets them pick the supplement they want complimentary. Same model, value-based model. And he's making $600 per 30 minutes. Now, I just want a review for everybody. Let's go way back in the Wayback Time Machine. What exactly did we say the net on a 20610/11 was? What was the net on that? Oh, the net on that was like $5 to $10. So my colleague that's now nebulizing, right? He's charging $1,000. He has a hard cost of, you know, 400 bucks. So he makes $600 and then he's got 65% overhead. All right. So maybe he only takes home, let's call it $250 of this. How many cortisone shots do you have to do at 5 to 10 bucks a piece to make 250 bucks? Do that math. You got to do 25 cortisone shots to make the same amount of money as nebulizing a product once. Hopefully, this is resonating with some of you. So, when we're talking about quality of life, would I rather nebulize a product and make a net in EBITDA of $250, or would I rather make a net of $5 to $10 in that same 30-minute time frame? Now, it's not 30 minutes if you're doing PRP. The average PRP takes 45 minutes. If you're doing A2M takes an hour and a half. And A2M kits are $900. Some of them are $1,300. Bone marrow aspirate concentrate's a 2-hour procedure. The BMAC kits are $1,300 to $2,600 a piece. Makes this little nebulizer that takes 30 minutes, and you can buy a handheld nebulizer for 30 bucks on Amazon, look a lot less risky, doesn't it? This is just one application. Let's talk about the second. This is the most profitable paradigm in medicine, bar none. It doesn't matter what practice you have, you can do this. What's the second most profitable? Second most profitable. Borders on cosmetic application, right? And it borders on cosmetic application because it is, because it's microneedle. Microneedle is the second most profitable paradigm in medicine. Not fillers, not Botox, microneedle. Why? Most fillers are brutally expensive. And because fillers have gotten so competitive, and now there are Groupons on fillers, your margins, your net have fallen aggressively. Botox is just a funnel. That's it. Nobody's making money doing Botox anymore. The price points have gotten so competitive per unit for Botox, and the cost of Botox has gone up so much, whether you're using Dysport or whatever else. Most people break even using Botox. It is no longer the profit generator that it used to be. Microneedling, however, is different, right? 35% of the US population on a GLP-1, and that's climbing, where we believe it's going to be close to 50% by 2030. Are people going to stop eating? No. And if I can just stick myself with a little needle and I can still drink a bottle of wine in the afternoon, I can still have a bucket of chicken a week, right? I can still go to McDonald's and have 2 Big Macs and 2 large fries. Am I still going to do that? And if I can just stick myself with a needle and lose weight, am I okay with that? Sure. But what does this do? Well, causes hair loss. And it gives you the old Ozempic ooze. Meaning you start to get laxity just about everywhere. This right here is the honeypot. Hair loss. Hair loss affects over 65% of the US population. 65% of adults experience hair loss that bothers them. I've been teased for years. I know. I've got more than a 4-head. I've got a 5-head. I mean, my hair's like running off my head. I'm frankly ecstatic I still have hair. Of the hair that I have, do I microneedle myself? You betcha. You betcha. Mostly just to keep my wife interested because I married way up. So I'm trying to keep whatever hair I have left. Let's talk about microneedling. All right. Let's talk about the macroeconomics of microneedling. All right. If I want to get into aesthetics, usually I'm going to have to go buy a laser, a Morpheus, or a CO2, right? Morpheus is anywhere between 125K to 170K. A really nice CO2 is between 35K and 70K, right? How much is a microneedle pen? How much is a doctor pen? M8? Oh, it's $120. $120. Now, many people like something called a skin pen. A skin pen is between $5,000 and $8,000. The refill cartridges are $86. The Dr. Pen M8 is $120, and the refill cartridges are $3. So that means that if you're using a skin pen to do microneedling, you are minus $83 a case. Now let's just assume we're doing 100 cases a month. All right, now we are minus 8,300 per month. That means we are minus roughly 100K per year. Huh. Why am I buying skin pen? Oh, I know. The cute little girls come in and they buy me crumble cookies, and those are so yummy. And there's on average 4 crumble cookies per box, and they come in typically 2 times a month. So I get 8 cookies a month. And so what that means is that I'm investing roughly $1,000 per cookie. Seem like a good investment to you? Not a very good investment from me. I can buy my own crumble cookies at $1,000 a cookie. I'm going to tell you a little story about this. I was approached by a group in the West Coast, and the owner had 5 medical spas. They were doing 2,000 vampire facials a month. 2,000 across all 5 of their clinics. That is a lot. They were charging $450 for the procedure. Now, for all of you that are doing aesthetics, this is a cautionary tale, right? I said, my God, that is a ton of procedures, 2,000. She's like, it is, but we're just not making any money. And I've been trying to sell my clinics to venture capital for at least 3 years, and I can't get bites. I'm like, well, do you mind if we go through some numbers? She's like, sure, let's go through some numbers. I said, you're doing a vampire facial. How much are you paying for your PRP kits? Oh, we're paying $375 for our PRP kits. Like $375. She's like, yeah, we use the best. Okay, that's great. I said, what microneedle pen are you using? Oh, well, of course we use a skin pen, right? $86 for a refill tip. I said, okay. I said, now, how do you pay your estheticians? She's like, oh, we're very generous. We pay our estheticians $50 a case. Can you all spot the problem? Yeah, she's losing money on every single case, right? Not a little bit. She's losing a lot. she's losing over $50 a case on 2,000 cases. She's losing a ton of money every month. 5 and 2s, 10, 4 zeros. That's how much she was losing a month. Just using PRP and the skin pen. So what do we do for her clinic? Well, we got rid of her skin pen and had her use a Dr. Pen M8. So now her refill cartridges were $3. We got rid of her PRP and she used a product called Nano Jelly that was $150. Her esthetician still got $50, right? So she saved $225 here, and she saved an additional $83 here. Her cost here was the same. She went from losing $50 a case to making that much more. Her next month in practice, she net $500,000 on her vampire facials using a Wharton's jelly that was $150 and a Dr. Pen M8. 7 months later, she sold all of her clinics. I never got a call. I never even got a thank you. It's fine. I was stoked for her. These are some macroeconomics. From losing $100,000 a month to netting over $500K a month, right? That's a big deal. All because she changed from a PRP that was expensive from a time perspective and from a cost perspective in a different microneedle tip. So how does this really play out financially? Because this was cautionary tale. Let's get into it. All right, Dr. Martin, you've convinced me. I want to start doing hair. What does this look like? What am I getting into? Okay. Typical protocols for scalp restoration. 4 applications. For those of you that are not super familiar with scalp restoration, primary reason for hair loss is peripheral conversion of dihydrotestosterone, which causes elevated inflammation, which then does what? The inflammation actually breaks down the collagen in the bulb of the hair follicle. It also causes vasoconstriction, meaning it reduces blood flow to the hair follicle and the hair follicle dies. When we use something like a cosmetic exosome, Nano X, X for exterior use only. Exosomes do what? Well, they downregulate inflammation. They have collagen-based growth factors, primarily type 1 and type 3. Oh, the bulb of the hair follicle is type 1 and type 3 collagen, right? Exosomes also have something called growth differentiating factor 11, which can stimulate the release of tropoelastin. And tropoelastin is the precursor for elastogenesis. Every time you comb your hair, every time you run your hand through your hair, every time you take your pomade out, your Dapper Dan pomade, and you put it through your hair to hold it in place and look perfectly coiffed, the stretch on your hair follicle that doesn't cause the hair to pull out of your head is due to elastin in the scalp. Exosomes can stimulate tropoelastin, which will augment elastogenesis. It simply makes the hair more resilient. 4 applications 4 times apart, typically combining Nano X, a GHK copper peptide that is a super GHK copper peptide that has GHK copper plus biotin plus HA. $250 here. $40 here. Typically, I add HA to this, 4 cc's, which cost another roughly $20, right? On volume, it's more like 10. So your total cost is $300. What do I charge per scalp application? My charge is $1,000 per application. What is my net? Net? $700 less 65%. You're looking at about 350, about $300 or 30 20610/11. Is this starting to impact all of you? Most of you have patients that are losing hair. Most of you have some technical proficiency. Using a microneedle pen is mindless. These numbers, this investment to make net in EBITDA of the same investment is unheard of. Absolutely unheard of, right? And from a time utilization standpoint, to be able to net $700 per case, to have a net of $300 a case, compared to simple joint injections, where your net is $5 to $10, is staggering. And what it does is it changes how you spend your time. I understand this is a lot of information. I understand many of you may have some hesitation. You're like, look, Dr. Martin, I mean, there are federal guidelines that, govern how we can use biologics. I'm not in Florida or Utah. I have some reservations. And we anticipated that. Under federal statutes, every doctor has the right to practice medicine. All biologics are FDA cleared. Cleared, not approved, FDA cleared. Some of you will say, well, that's not true. PRP is FDA approved. No, it's not. The plastic kit is a 510K FDA approved medical device. The plastic kit is FDA approved. But as soon as you mix that with blood or bone or fat, you now have a human cell and tissue product, and it cannot be used to make any claim. You cannot use it to treat osteoarthritis grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 22, right? It cannot be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent anything. So if there's a right to practice medicine and these products are FDA cleared, I'm still not okay with that. Give me another measure of comfort. Let's do that, right? The feds give relative exclusions to cosmetic topical use. And guess what falls under that category? Microneedle. All right, well, I don't want a microneedle, Dr. Martin. I want to actually do some joint injections. That's the majority of what I see in my practice. But if I'm going to do those joint injections, I remember that Medicare clawed back a lot of people that billed Medicare for those joint injections. I don't want to have that. Well, number one, this is cash. We're not billing insurance. And number two, we got you. I've done a lot of publishing. I've taken 14 papers to publication in the past 5 years. When we're talking about human cell and tissue products, do we have all of the data and all the literature that I would like? We do not. And because we don't have all the data and all the literature that I would like, through the Institute of Regenerative Education, we have developed IRB approved observational studies.
Marcus is going to pop the link in there, Dr. Martin, directly to the IORE website where they can sign up for that observational safety evaluation that covers everything?
Because we are not your garden variety biologics company, we did two things. First, we have in writing IRB approval for the Coke trial. The Coke trial is the very first trial of its kind. It's the comparative OA knee trial. It is a comparative, randomized, observational study looking at RBC sparing PRP versus lyophilized Wharton's jelly. Now, you said, well, Dr. Martin, I don't want to use PRP, even if it's RBC sparing, and I don't want to inject knees. We got you. We are pending approval for a general retrospective data repository. That's fancy speak for a general all-encompassing IRB, where if you want to evaluate and track data points for exosomes microneedle for scalp restoration, we can do that. And you can be enrolled as an investigator in our IRB. If you want to, under experimental use, nebulize exosomes for patients with chronic disease, not to treat, cure, or prevent disease, but to observe at 0, 3, 6, and 12 months, objective changes in sleep, pain, emotional status, quality of life, patient-reported outcomes, you can do that. This is going to be groundbreaking. This will allow any and every provider in the US, if they would like, to comply with federal statutes at the letter of the law and collect data under experimental use statutes. We will be doing a lecture in mid-March, and that lecture in mid-March will introduce at a granular level both the Coke trial and the general retrospective data repository, and how all of you can be part of that. This study, tentatively, is 1,000 investigators, 10,000 patients. It is an international study. This, on the other hand, is going to be more like 25,000 investigators and hundreds of thousands of patients, which means hundreds of thousands of data points. You see, at Platinum, we also have four walls. I live outside here in my own four walls. And in order to really, really fall in love with the field of biologics and have it impact lives in a meaningful way, most providers want what? They want receipts. Those receipts come in the form of white papers because there is very little data in the regenerative medicine marketplace specific to allogenic allografts. I know, I've published a bit of it. Did we burn the ships? No. We fell in love with ourselves a little bit. And as opposed to getting stuck in our four walls, we added windows, a second, a third story, right? And a promenade. Why? Because we wanted to invite everyone inside our four walls, so that everyone being part of these four walls and these four walls could then walk into their own four walls, make some revenue so they could love on their own practice a little bit more. This is a tip of the iceberg lecture, a tippy tip of the iceberg lecture. In the IORE.com, we have protocols. We have everything. We have consent forms. We have
Medical note dictation, 100 hours
we
of
have
video training.
sample op notes. This is just in the IORE.com. In the Facebook group, I have over 150 hours of content. Here we have probably 50 or 60 hours of content. I drop lectures in both of these on a weekly basis. My lectures are always accompanied with peer-reviewed references, sometimes 2, sometimes 15, unless I'm just talking about practice development, right? I dedicate, initially it was 20 hours a week to consulting. Now it's more like 60 or 70. Still see patients in the middle of the day. I understand this is an immense amount of information to digest. But if you think back just a few minutes ago, I said that wherever you are in the country, this is coming. And when it does come to your state, you will have two choices. You will have already started to create a cash-based biologics practice within your existing four walls, and you will be the tip of the spear for your community. And when that state law is passed and more people in your community feel comfortable seeing you, well, now you better figure out how to hire more people and more bodies and more physicians and nurse practitioners, because you're going to be inundated. The converse of that is that you're Johnny come lately. And those people that were tip of the spear, that did the hard target work to become educated, to bring themselves up to speed with the medical literature by collecting data, by actually experiencing outcomes for themselves in their practice. When those laws are passed in their states, and they're coming, they're leading the race. They're not playing catch up. Our job, my job, is very simple. The good Lord has been wonderfully kind to me. He gave me, this is like my 7th or 8th iteration in medicine. I've had to reinvent myself over and over again. The folks at Platinum have been wonderfully gracious in allowing me to literally create all of this, because none of this existed before I created it. The content, the educational content. I'm married up in my relationship. I'm married up in my consulting with Platinum Biologics. It has changed my quality of life. It has changed the way I speak to providers and the way I speak to patients immeasurably. I do not see providers as competition at all now. I see them all as colleagues. Our Facebook group with 2,400, 2,500 providers is a collaborative network of providers. I know many of them personally. I've been on hours and hours of calls with them. I was there when they took their first call and they used their first biologic. I've been there as they've had complicated patients and we talk through case scenarios. And now they're in the Facebook group educating new providers on what they're doing in their practice and sharing their outcomes. What a wonderful turn of fate to go from learning to educating. This is what we do in medicine anyway. See one, do one, teach one. We're asking you to add a third step and a fourth step, right? You're seeing and you're doing, right? We're asking you to build the proficiency so you can teach others in your community how to lead, just like you have for so many years. But we're also asking you to not just see one, do one, teach one, but to see one, do one, research one, and then teach everybody. Our goal with the IORE, our goal with these observational studies is to be the data. Our goal is to be the voice of the crowd, the voice of the mob. Because believe it or not, RFK Jr. is not going to like come through the ceiling tiles here with like little wings and flutter down and just gently, drop in front of all of us and then just with a wave of a Harry Potter magic wand say stem cells are legal everywhere. Everyone do stem cells. That ain't going to happen. What is going to happen is gradual state by state adoption, gradual physician by physician adoption. What is going to turn the Titanic of the Fed, right? No aircraft carrier turns immediately. They turn very, very slow. It will not be policy that changes the Fed's posturing and position. It will be the weight of 10, 20, 100,000 voices. What we care about, the only court we care about, is the court of public opinion. This is what I care about. This is what we care about. Proving by way of observational studies what we know to be true and has been true since 1950 when Dr. Wharton coined the term Wharton's jelly. My schedule will be available to all of you. I will be ramping my schedule up because more and more and more providers want more access. We will be doing group calls with doctors on a weekly basis where we'll be doing something called protocol power hour, meaning for about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how many people are on the call, right? We will let 5 people or 105 people or 205 in on a call just like this. And I will literally take your questions, like kind of Dear Abby, right? But not, whatever. Dr. Martin, I've got this patient with, grade 3, grade 4 OA, plus a bucket handle tear of the meniscus, and they have rheumatoid arthritis. What would you do? Boom, this is my protocol. This is what I would use. This is how I would do it. Experimental use, of course. Dr. Martin, I've got this patient with this paradigm, and they have this, this, and this, and they're on this, and they tried this, and they tried this, and none of it worked. What would you do? This is what I would do. This is what I would use. Experimental use. Please track the outcomes.
We're gonna see if you can dodge bullets like Neo.
We're gonna try to do all that. It's gonna take a lot of coffee, but fortunately, there's lots of coffee out there.
Yeah. So Dr. Martin is booked out till March. And the first week's starting to fill up, so we really don't have another option here. We have Dr. Bell in the podiatry sector. We have Karen. We're in talks with her and getting her more busy as well. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be sending out an email for Protocol Power. We've been talking about this for a while. So we're going to get this done and get it where people can kind of hop in the action, throw an esoteric case out there and get a live play-by-play feed. And, we'll try to keep that actually as open as possible to see if some people say, well, what if this or what if that, right? Within reason, we'll see how much we have to police it. The Facebook group has been, everyone's actually been surprisingly, I've only had to force kick, I think, 3 people, but very surprisingly. But everyone's been well behaved. So I think it'll turn out really well and be very helpful for those of you that are on edge. Do I do a peer-to-peer or do I do a protocol power hour? I think that's where the peer-to-peers are going to be more specific to you, your practice, your business, mindset, and kind of more of a business one-on-one. And when we talk, clinical application, it's going to be really cool to get peers involved, working together collectively, and even sharing their ideas on those as well. So anyways, Dr. Martin, you want anything else you want, or you want me to go ahead and close it out?
No, unless there's any questions you want me to answer.
Um,
Otherwise, we're going to be here for another 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things, guys. I just want to hammer on real quick. I think when you have the average deductible for, and you guys can pull this up on ChatGPT, someone who's doing a hip surgery. I know some people are like, well, this isn't relevant to me. I've always charged cash. It's actually even more relevant to you because unfortunately or fortunately, no matter how you look at it, this could be good for you, bad for the patient, bad for the marketplace. It's really what you make it is what I've come to realize in my professional entrepreneurial career. And I think that's the message we're trying to get to all of you. Unfortunately, most of the doctors are going to go get a job. And those patients are going to have to go somewhere. And I'm telling you right now, they're being disinterested in going to the hospital. They don't want to go to Big Brother anymore. There's a big turn against that. So those of you that think competition is going to grow, actually abundance of opportunity is going to be in front of you. And it's going to take a while for these states to kind of get in line, but I mean, did we really ever think that people would just be legally smoking pot? I mean, think
Everywhere.
about that for a second. So I challenge each and all of you to just wonder how long can it last when your best healthcare plan, your deductible, is more than the surgeon makes? So it's you or it's not you. And that's just a decision you got to make. We'd love to help you be that person helping your community get 2 or 3 years ahead of before people even begin to think it's a good idea. And that's where, as Dr. Martin said, it's going to be in the court of public opinion. We're outpacing a lot of the systems in healthcare, and you have a unique opportunity to carve generational wealth, but be a part of generational outcomes. And you can also engage in research and cement your outcomes as little as case series. You can do one patient, have a great result, and publish that. And there's not very many people that would be more happy to put your name on that paper, not even put their own on it, than Dr. Martin himself. Although I would urge you, let him put his name on the paper. He'll do a lot of work. Trust me. He'll help you write it and everything. But my point is, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Make sure you join the Facebook, the IORE. Sign up for the IRB when it comes, and we'll send out an announcement for the protocol power hour. We're really looking forward to that. With that, everybody, have a wonderful night. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.